Yep. Welcome to the November 19th, 2025 meeting of the Fluvanna County BOS Nov. You can start with pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have one. Just this kind of came up as a discussion with the planning commission last night regarding a technology zone consideration, and just for discussion, no action by the board. But if we could add that under new business.
Mr. Chair, I move we accept the agenda as presented with the addition of a technology zone and under new business. Second.
Motion made by Mr. Hart, second by Mr. Good, all David.
Aye. Aye.
Chair votes aye, 5-0. Written committee report.
Got a short one. Multiples up. So Mr. Chair, members of the board, yeah, just kind of a rehash, kind of what we did, the Pleasant Grove Community of Light celebration. It's a holiday light drive-through at Pleasant Grove, December 11th through the 14th. The event is free and open to the public. Parks and Rec is looking for businesses, organizations, groups, clubs, scout troops, churches, families, or anyone that would like to set up a family-friendly holiday light display. And Fluvanna County Parks and Recs will supply the electricity. Please register online at fluvanna.recdesk.com, or they can call the Pleasant Grove House at 434-589-2016. Deadline to register is noon, December 5th, 2025. And I think honestly, at this point, I think speaking to Mr. Spitzer before, I think we have like 20 some vendors last year. I think he said we have at least 30 to 35 so far at this point. So we're kind of piling up. So it'll be a good event. But that's all I have to report as far as any updates and just some upcoming meetings. Just remember at the December 3rd meeting, in addition to the regular meeting at 5 p.m., we will also have at 7 p.m. kind of a joint work session with the board and school board to kind of look at just kind of some of the school board's high level priorities coming forward in this budget year. And then December 17th at 6 p.m. we'll have our regular meeting. And then January 7th at 5 p.m. we'll have our organizational and regular meeting, and all those meetings at this point will be here in the circuit courtroom unless we see anything that would cause it to be elsewhere otherwise.
You said which day was the school board?
December 3rd.
And that'll be starting at 5.
So the regular meeting would be at 5, then at 7 p.m. we would have the meeting with the
Okay,
school board.
gotcha.
So
Sorry.
we'll have a shortish regular meeting.
And will we go to the Morris room for that? Or-
Yes.
Okay, like we did last year.
Yeah.
I will be out of town on the 17th.
Okay.
Our anniversary is the 16th. I'm gonna be out of town. I will try to,
I don't think you can like designate where he's actually going to be at that
I
time.
can't tell you exactly where I'll be, but I will try to make a connection.
Okay, thanks to everybody for the interagency. Council meeting, we decided to break in and get the board on top of it. All right, we'll have the first round of public comment. Anybody who wishes to speak, please keep it close to the board and 5 minutes.
Good evening, James Schoenster. I live at 843 Jefferson Drive. And since you mentioned the IAC meeting, I thought that was a great segue because that's what I wanted to come talk about. And just say thank you for participating in that. And thank you to Ms. Pace for organizing and for all the members of IAC for showing up. I think it's really important that we have these forums where folks can come together and have a more casual conversation, having the opportunity to just speak freely and not have a barrier between us is really important, especially for the folks in the community who are working to advocate for the people in our community who may not have the means to advocate for themselves and support those people. I got to have a good conversation with one of the supervisors about how we can expand the jaunt service, as I'm a member of the jaunt board, there's a need for a workday link to Zion Crossroads. We currently have Monday, Wednesday, Friday sourced. You can get curb to curb access to maybe an appointment, or if you are going to do some shopping. But if you were to work at Lowe's or Food Line or anywhere in that shopping center, it's challenging to get there if you don't have transportation. So I'm looking to find ways to demonstrate that demand and getting to have a conversation with folks on the board about what might be an example of how to demonstrate that demand, what it might look like, gives me some direction. So I really appreciate that meeting. And speaking of advocating, I'm going to take off my jaunt hat and put on the CASA hat as a member of the CASA board. I just want to say how great it is that we have so many members in our community who are advocates. CASA specifically advocates for children who are navigating the foster care system. They give reports to judges after providing one-on-one direct support for those kids. They know those kids incredibly well and develop a relationship so that they can better advocate for their needs. And, we're always looking for good people to be advocates. So if anyone on the board or in the broader community wants to talk about that way to give back to your community, love to have a coffee and talk about that need. And so thank you so much for that opportunity to bring these needs and have that conversation. And I would like to close with one more thing. I haven't forgotten how important it is to connect our community to the Board of Supervisors through the virtual public comment. I think that we need to continue looking into that. I haven't stopped that desire. And until we have that option available, I'll continue to come up and advocate for that accessibility. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak?
Hi. You're a little taller.
Sorry.
That's okay. I think I could do it. Okay. My name's Erin Wise-Eckenbaum, and thank you for being here.
And can you take your address?
Yeah,
Sorry, I should-
242 Friendship Way,
Thank you.
Palmyra. I vote to deny Tenaska's special use permit. We produce enough energy here to meet our needs. Let's let it sink in. Our residential energy use is expected to remain stable, but at the same time, Tenaska wants to come in and pollute our waters, our air, and our health. We don't need Tenaska or anyone else to produce more dirty energy. We should be looking at clean energy. That's another topic. The cooling of the plant would pull 6 to 7 million gallons of water per day from the James and dump dirty, hard water back in. We already have a problem on the Fluvanna River, and we all enjoy that. We don't enjoy the problem. We enjoy using the river without the problem. Causing gas-fired plants create air pollution, causing respiratory problems, asthma, and chronic pulmonary diseases. I guess we're at a crossroads not only in Virginia, but in the United States as well, in the world as a whole. Tenaska won't be selling this energy to us because we don't need it. They're selling the energy to the open market, and basically they're selling it to the data centers. There's been a huge spike in planned data centers in Virginia. In fact, you might already know that that we in Virginia are considered the data capital of the world. 1,250 data centers are planned or proposed across the Commonwealth alone. Despite the long list of health concerns, there's no significant safeguards in the federal, state, or local level. You must care, and we must safeguard, not for ourselves necessarily, but for our grandkids and the future generations. Many of the new artificial intelligent data centers use more energy than a medium city. That's crazy to me. And what do we even want this? I mean, as a whole, as a group, Fluvanna, Virginia, or the United States don't need more data centers, and we don't need to overproduce energy to fuel this waste. Fluvanna has beautiful schools, robust parks, great hiking areas, recreation, beautiful rivers, and we don't need Tenaska to ruin that. On the Fluvanna website, you let visitors know, and I quote, that you have much to offer, from rolling hills, scenic mountain views, to the great outdoors, recreation activities, hiking, paddling. I know we all do this, right? And we take it for granted, but it's not like that all over the world. Fishing, primitive camping, horseback riding, mountain biking. All this can stop when we grab money that our residents don't even need. So I really hope that you can look beyond whatever proffer, whatever monies that could come in and really look at keeping our water safe. We need it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else wishing to speak?
Patty Greenert, 3531 Union Mills Road. And I will just make one comment on the previous person's comments. You know, Fluvanna doesn't need Tenaska. Tenaska needs Fluvanna. And I think, you know, I'm not here to fight that battle, but I think you already know that. The amount of, it doesn't bring jobs. It doesn't bring what we need in this county. So I think the board should really be listening to the citizens of this county. But, you know, and this ties all into the assessed land values here in the county. The amount is not that big that Tenaska would bring in for taxes, assessed taxes, or utility taxes, and it doesn't bring the jobs. So I'm just going to talk about Union Mills Road. Properties on Union Mills Road tonight. I can't get through all of them. I have many to talk about, but let's start out with tax map 10-8-15. Basically doesn't have a mailing address, but it is owned by the UVA Alumni Association. This is property that's on Union Mills Road. It is just after or just before Steger Creek. There is 79 acres with a use code of 780V. It's agricultural A1 zoned, and the market value of that property is $271,500. Assessed value, $3,436.70. Okay, they have an additional 3.346 acres that it touches part of this. This is all one big parcel of land, but in various smaller pieces. And that is A1, same exact code with a value of $15,100. And I would love to be able to buy land for that. We can't. And if it were ever sold, it would be quadruple these numbers. But they're not being taxed according to that. That's assessed tax value per acre, $4,512.85. They own an additional 87.478 acres. And that is just across the road from there. A1 with a use code of 780V. That land is valued at $393,700. With the assessed value per acre, $4,500. Okay, they have 12.42 acres. Exactly same zoning, exactly the same use code, $4,500. But, you know, the interesting part of all of this is there is a personal residence, single family resident that touches that property, borders that property. And that is a smaller parcel of property, but it's being taxed at assessed tax value of $12,788. So, I mean, you all know the tax bills have already gone out. It's the holidays and you guys are, you know, we're getting stuff constantly, you know, about people needing help, that, you know, they need food, they need heat, they need all the things that we all need to live and survive. But we don't take into consideration that we could help a lot of people in this county by just taxing them fairly on the property. If you can afford to have the property, then you can afford to pay your taxes. It's simple. And it is very upsetting and very disturbing, you know, to stand here and talk every meeting about the unfair taxation and nobody wants to address any of it. You guys, I always ask for the transparency. I always ask for the meetings where we can have discussions and we can talk about the concerns of why these properties are not being taxed consistently and fairly. But nobody ever wants to have these meetings. So how do you solve a problem that nobody will talk about? We have laws, and it seems like it's very clear that when we have state laws that, are very good laws for how properties should be assessed and taxed, but we don't really follow them. And then the county creates an ordinance. Well, ordinances are only supposed to be created if they are stronger and hold people to a much higher standard. Ours do just the opposite. That just enables them breaking the law even more and penalizing the taxpayers that are already overtaxed.
Good evening. My name's Vicki Wise. I live at 2042 Friendship Way. I moved to Virginia 4 years ago, and I think it is just the most gorgeous place. I just love it here. And I'm a little concerned about the idea of the secondary gas plant. I do think that should you decide to approve it, hopefully not, but if you do, I have some concerns about how it is implemented. If it's a diesel powered generators, I'd like to see the plant considerably away from where people live, several miles away. I'm not sure where they want to put this in. I am concerned about safety. They were forthcoming about the traffic issues that they would create, saying 800 to 900 more cars on the road every day during their construction for a couple of years. That's not, that's dangerous. Where I live, we see cars, sometimes it's quiet, then all of a sudden it's very busy. We have buses going through with loads of little children. We have logging trucks going through. I don't know how you're going to, I would like to see them have a planned traffic flow idea for minimizing that impact if they were to get approval for safety for the public. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Don Renner, 3531 Union Mills Road. I'd like to reflect on our last election a little bit. At the precinct that I was at all day, I spoke several times with Mr. Sheridan and Mr. O'Brien. And at the fire departments, we didn't have any issues. But at the churches, we had issues. And I don't know what the long-term solution or proposed solution would be, but perhaps we ought to consider having these in other buildings, not places of worship, because some people that run these churches don't seem to be able to separate themselves, that for that day and the day before, those are not places of worship. Those are election precincts. And that has not happened. And it's bound to get worse before it gets better if we don't move them to other locations. And that said, I know my personal situation. There are county employees, as I spoke last time, that seem to favor one side over the other, and they'll shut candidate one down, and candidate two is welcome with open arms, and that's wrong. So we need to set forth rules and enforce them for all county-sponsored public events about what's going to be allowed and what's not going to be allowed. And, during the latest redistricting, you moved many people out of the Lake Monticello areas, and they were moved to other precincts. So I don't know whether Lake Monticello's clubhouse or the golf course area is an option that the county could consider, but understand that it has to be a building that is not named the registrar's office in order for that to occur. So we'll have another election that will have national candidates in it less than 2 years from now. So we need to get to work on this, get it resolved before then. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak?
Ray Bassey, 50 Smokewood Drive. Good evening. I'm asking the board to lay out clear next steps and commitments before this special use permit for the Tanaska Expedition Project ever appears on an approval agenda. With a project of this scale and lifespan, the board's core responsibility is to protect public health, safety, welfare, and our community's environment, not by assumption, but by complete due diligence and enforceable safeguards. That means evidence over assurances, conditions over concepts, accountability in writing before approvals move forward. There are 3 principles that should guide the county's path. Evidence before entitlement. Studies, modeling, and permit specifics, especially for water, noise, traffic, and air, should be complete, public, and vetted before any vote is scheduled. To be determined, TBD, is not a protective posture. Protections must be enforceable and bonded. If a safeguard matters, it must be in the conditions, measurable, independently monitored, and backed by financial security so the county, and not the residents, has real recourse. Risk should not shift to taxpayers. The applicant should fund the extraordinary review and independent oversight a project like this requires. That is best practice and basic fairness. Translating those principles into concrete next steps, I ask you to direct staff to bring back a conditions and oversight package that includes water, final intake and discharge locations, automatic drought-triggered curtailments tied to objective thresholds, real-time public reporting of withdrawals and discharges, noise, modern health relevant limits using LEQ and LMAX with startups, and STEAM events included, continuous independent monitoring with a public dashboard, and combined, and I repeat, combined compliance for the existing and proposed plants together. If you don't do that, it makes no sense. Traffic, a VDOT reviewed traffic impact analysis, which is in the process, but it should include committed turn lanes, entrance improvements, defined haul routes, no heavy haul during school windows, and a road bond to restore any damage, land and timing, conservation easements recorded before any land disturbance, and a bonded restoration plan for temporary laydown areas. Diesel and air, ULSD, that's ultra low sulfur diesel, only backups, tight caps on non-emergency testing hours and public notification for tests, plus disclosures of the final air permit limits in a one-page summary before any vote. Fiscal and oversight, a realistic revenue path with a stabilized tax floor, and an extraordinary review and inspection agreement so the applicant funds third-party peer review, special inspections, and the independent compliance monitor, not the residents. My request tonight is process-focused and neutral. State publicly that the board will not schedule any vote until these items are fully defined, enforceable, and posted for public review. Direct staff to return with a draft conditions package and oversight agreement that makes these protections measurable, bonded, and independently monitored. Publish a checklist and timeline so the community can track progress from tonight's update to a fully informed decision. This is not about being for or against the project. It is about governance. Do the careful work now so the county does not inherit avoidable risks later. Once concrete is poured and steel is set, leverage is gone and the fixes become more expensive. Finishing the homework up front is the fairest path for the residents, for the county, and for the applicant. Thank you for considering this update to set clear direction, due diligence first, enforceable protections next, and only then a vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak? Seeing none, we will move on to presentations. Treasurer's report, please.
Good evening, gentlemen. I know that you can see from the report the different balances for at the end of October. It appears as though tax is almost going to hit the $3 million mark on the collections, and the meals tax, the amount at the bottom changed just a little bit. But what we have collected total so far is $122,723 and some change.
Can I ask you, just in case citizens are listening in, would you say what tax is?
Tax is the Taxing Authority Consulting Services, and they are our collections firm
Thank you.
for the county. And did you have any questions?
Nope, that's it.
Pretty straightforward.
Meals tax collection is that September, October was
No, August was 50,700, and we're still getting monies coming in even for some of the prior months.
October to about now.
Well, yes, as a matter of fact, tomorrow would be it's due on the 20th of the following month. So September was 46,700, and so far 25,200 for October.
Sorry. Wow.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And some of them we need to remember are, like vendor trucks. And so it's going to go down some because a lot of them, don't do anything in the winter time. So.
And just to add, there's some of them that are still trying to understand the program too.
That's true. We still have a lot. Some of the ones that were in question, we have been getting registration forms. I think it's just I'm not real sure what else we need to do because I know the commissioner's office has sent out, I think, three different letters. And the last one was very specific on what was expected and the consequences if not. So,
How many participants are in the program?
is it 70?
Mr. O'Brien, you don't have the list in front of me, but around.
Around 70, I think is what it was, but that includes the vendor trucks. So yeah. I don't know if it's, right at, I think it was about 76 is what I think the number was.
We have some doing everything they should be, some filing or some collecting, but then not paying.
We're under the impression, yes, that there's one that in particular that is collecting but has not submitted payments and stuff. And I'm hoping that that's just because they don't understand the process yet. And others are not even collecting. So again, I go back to till all this is straight, there's going to be no penalty and interest. We did have one business that sent in some money for August and they included the penalty. And I just said no, because there's really no place for us at this point to do, to do that. I just didn't think that that was fair because we haven't been doing it with everybody else. So, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ma'am. Moving on to item C, Department of Emergency Services Staffing, Mr. Dahl.
No, being on myself and Mr. MJ Fick, EMS Supervisor MJ Fick, I'll start and then we'll kind of hand it off to him a little bit. So again, at the October 15th board meeting, the board asked to provide an update on staffing for the Department of Emergency Services and more specifically Kent Store. So then at that meeting, discussion ensued about current Kent Store Rescue Station 24-hour staffing versus the current FY26 budgeted 12-hour staffing. And so we'll kind of go through some slides and just kind of give you a kind of a recap of like how the department's structured right now, what was approved, and then just some different options to look at. But then, we'll certainly be available for questions. So currently the way that the current EMS department is structured and what was approved in the budget. So we basically have 3 stations. Well, we should have 3 stations, manned, staffed, and then we have an ALS quick response vehicle. So at Palmyra Rescue, there's 4 shifts, A, B, C, D shifts. And for each shift, you need 2 providers. So we need 8 EMS providers for that. And those providers can be either basic life support or advanced life support, and they work 24-hour shifts. So that's at Palmyra Rescue Station. And the same thing for in Fork Union. Again, Fork Union runs out of the Fork Union firehouse. And so again, same thing, 8 EMS providers, A, B, C, D shifts, can be BLS or ALS, and they work 24-hour shifts. For the fiscal year 26 budget, maybe 25 budget, I can't remember. I think the 25 budget started potentially. The board provided funding for EMS providers at Kent Store. And so what was provided for that was funding for 12-hour shifts. And so for those 12-hour shifts, they don't work ABCD shifts. They work on a rotating shift. So they would work potentially, well, what's the shifts like per week?
So it's like the rotation of they work 3 12-hour shifts. They're off 2 days. They would work 2 12-hour shifts and then off for 3 days and then continue that rotation. So the way we had it have it on the schedule is that they would actually have the way that the schedule would work. They would have every other weekend off.
And so with that, again, so really the requirement for that is 4 EMS providers. And then also the county has ALS1 or a quick response vehicle. And again, that you have a quick response vehicle for all 4 of the shifts. So you need 4 EMS providers, but that can only be advanced life support providers only. You can't have BLS providers. And those providers would either be intermediate or paramedic, and they also work 24-hour shifts. And so the quick response vehicle is kind of the roaming vehicle throughout the county. And you want to provide a little more clarity on that?
Sure, that vehicle is staffed again by an advanced provider, so intermediate or paramedic, so that they're able to rotate out to the lake if need be, if they need a second set of hands, or if Fork Union is, say, a basic life support truck, they would be able to respond from Palmyra to Fork Union to help them out or help the truck out in Palmyra.
So that's the current staffing right now. And again, right now, I think Mr. Fick, I mean, I think we're just one short of being completely full for Palmyra, Fork Union, and all the ALS1, correct?
That's correct. So we've gotten staffing to where we need one more provider. Interviews coming up in the next couple of weeks for that spot. So at that point, for the first 2 stations, we would be 100% staffed.
And then kind of in between there, either people work overtime or we have part-time people too that will fill in from time to time.
Right.
So that's kind of the current structure right now. Just from a budget standpoint, and again, I apologize if this is kind of tough to see a little bit, trying to squeeze it on here, but this is kind of the whole budget, so to speak. Get rid of that. So currently right now, the current adopted budget for the current fiscal year is a little over 2.8 million. And so really the biggest change in some of that is one, in some of the staffing pieces, there was money for the chief of fire and EMS in this budget as well. And that was based upon a half year. And then down in operating costs, there were some additional costs recognized for just maintenance contracts, some additional education equipment, and there's a lot of other things down there, but that's just kind of high level. So the budget right now for the Department of EMS is a little over $2.8 million. Second here, sorry.
You said that the chief funding is part of.
Yeah, chief funding is part of that 2.83 million, but again, we haven't funded the position yet. It was funded for about a half a year.
Thank you.
So the board asked staff to kind of go back and just say, what would it cost to do something, something different, to go from a 12-hour shift from Kent Store to a 24. And so me and Mr. Fick, we just kind of brainstormed a little bit of some different options. for some different coverage in the county, considering what we have. So again, right now, and MJ, I'm gonna turn it over to you for the different options, and the top one is what we currently have.
Yeah, so the top one is the one that we currently have, which is the 2 24-hour trucks, a potential 12-hour truck, and the QRV, which is ALS1. So as you can see on the screen there on your computers, that some of the pros there, that obviously if we stay the course, it doesn't cost the county any additional money. The staffing needs would be five ALS or BLS positions. And so obviously the only con that we came up with that one was just figuring out interdepartmentally of how that leadership structure with that 12-hour shift would work. Just based on the fact that those people that were in Kent store on a 12-hour rotation would their schedule would hit every single lieutenant that's on duty. So there'd be a little bit of discrepancy there in case there were, one lieutenant expects one thing and one lieutenant expects another, just the way that they lead their shift. So a little bit of some uncontinuity there. But we could work on that, with the leadership group and figure out how we would work that. The second option there is obviously 3 24-hour shifts plus the QRV. So as you can see there, some of the pros: increased coverage, obviously service to the entire county. There would be really no increase in cost for fiscal year 26, but there would be an increase of about 300,000 for payroll and a few of the uniform essentials and some training and that sort of thing. So with that option 2, we would need nine positions filled. So those could be either come from ALS or BLS in that situation.
And if you have questions too on any of the different options, please feel free to just jump in.
One thing while we're having this conversation, I don't know if somebody can be working on looking back, but I'd like to see remind us what fiscal year we started paying and what the total budget was then.
Yeah, so let me just go back here. I mean, so you can see in fiscal year 23, really the EMS department started in fiscal year 24. And you can see we had actuals that year. Those are actual numbers of about 1.854 million. Those are the actuals in 24. When we went from 24 to 25, so originally for fiscal year 24, that was just for the 2 stations. In fiscal year 25 is when we went to the 2 24-hour stations and then the 1 12-hour. The problem in fiscal year 25, and Mr. Fick can easily discuss this, is the staffing was never really appropriate to fund that third station at the time. And so what was happening is there was a lot of people working overtime and a lot of part-time people trying to fill in. So again, speaking with Mr. Fick, in order to get that third station up and running, we really need to make sure that we've got the 2 24s ready and fully functional, which we about have at this point. So, you're one person away, and I think you said you've got someone on the queue right now.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So then in fiscal year 25, and again, that's just the budget was 2.6 million. To answer your question, Mr. Fairchild. So that's when fiscal year 24 to 25 is when we went up to the third station. And then fiscal year 26 is been the same structure, 2 24-hour stations, 1 12-hour stations, a QRV. But in 26, it included half your funding for the chief of fire and rescue, and then some additional operation cost.
Good to see the cost recovery dollars for the actual spot too.
Okay, yeah.
Because that gives us, obviously, this doesn't break out number of calls per year or anything along those lines.
No, not right now. I mean, like I said, this is just kind of a high level on the staffing. I mean, depending on what the board wants, we can certainly come back with call numbers.
Cost recovery dollars. Let's say we had 2.6 and 25 and 2.8 and 26 months. Better example is 24 to 25, 1.8 versus 2.6. Did we have $800,000 in cost recovery to get
I can,
2 million in cost.
so I can tell you, and Miss Melton is over in her office working on audit stuff right now. So maybe if she texts me, she can tell me what we did for 25. If I remember correctly, in fiscal year 23, I think 23, we had about 900,000. We had a low year, if I remember, for fiscal year 24 because there was some transition in the EMS collection company that we utilized. I remember looking at some preliminary numbers for fiscal year 25, and I want to say we were at around, I know we were close to 700,000, I feel, but don't, like I said, hopefully she hears and she'll text me what number was for 25.
But you have to remember that 700,000 included Lake Monticello that you get
That's
free,
the entire count, correct? Yeah.
Well, and that's true.
and they're running half the calls.
And in 26, have we staffed Kent Store at all?
No.
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 And in 25, we didn't staff it the entire year, did we?
We staffed Kent Store
For about 8
6 months.
About 6 months?
6
So
months, yeah.
We have 18 months of savings on that portion of
We
the
have-
bill. Not savings, but
Yeah, we have we had from basically January to June of fiscal year 25. Then so far this year from July to current, we've got savings because it hasn't been staffed. So it's been about, close to this December, it'll be 1 year. Not having providers out there. Roughly about 1 year.
Correct.
it doesn't matter. I just wanted to make sure that we made that point. We have not had, since 26 started, fiscal year 26.
Yeah.
We have not had a
Correct. That's
vehicle.
correct. Yes. And you talked about cost recovery. Miss Melton just sent me the number. We did just slightly over $1 million in cost recovery in 25.
Pretty steady.
Yeah.
So when I asked about the numbers when we started, and good, bad, or indifferent, in 2 years, we've grown the budget for this by more than 50%.
Yes.
What was our,
And I don't think we
What?
projected that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
and what were we paying prior to this?
900,000, 1.1 million, when it
Yeah,
transitioned
we were-
from Medic 5 to DRT.
Yeah, we had budgeted, it was just roughly, it was 900 some change, just a little under $1 million. And that was for two 24-hour trucks.
And we weren't getting 2 24-hour trucks.
We were
That's
not.
why we went away. We were getting 1 24-hour truck most of the time. Sometimes we weren't even getting a
Correct.
truck.
Yep.
Well, they were still running some, but not much.
Yeah.
Fridays and Saturdays.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so going back to kind of options again, one is kind of what we have in place. Two is what he said is if you just, instead of having the 1 12-hour shift, you made all stations 24 hours.
So option 3, 2 24-hour trucks running out of Palmyra and Fork Union. And we could have 1 24-hour countywide QRV. Eliminate the 12-hour ambulance in Kent Store and add 1 24-hour or 12-hour quick response vehicle in Kent Store. So that they would be able to first respond from the rescue station to a call, provide care until the ambulance was able to get there from Palmyra. And so obviously, as you can see from the slide, some of the pros, obviously first response available in Kent Store, but that first response vehicle could be available somewhere else in the county based on call volume. So if there's extra calls that are going on in Palmyra, they would be able to help out there. So wherever in the county they might that might need assistance of that second first response vehicle.
First response vehicle, they can't transport.
They can,
No.
no, it is not a transport vehicle. It would just be, it's got this very close to the same equipment that's on an ambulance. So they would be able to do care in place until the transport vehicle would be able to get there.
So the QRV provides flexibility to, go there. And then if, let's just say it's a BLS truck and you need ALS, the QRV gets there. And then if, ALS support's needed, it's there. But if it's not, then it kind of just goes back and then, BLS.
Or it has the option of transporting into the hospital if it's a sick patient or injured patient that needs advanced level care.
But it would also, if there was a stroke or a heart attack, it would be the most person who could give the most help the quickest until, say, the other two ambulances about Lake Monticello could then respond and provide the transport unit, but initial care would be given
Correct.
with that vehicle.
And those early medications could be administered.
Yes.
Now, we do not have drug boxes on fire trucks at all. correct?
Yes, we
Yeah.
have basic,
We
we have
do?
BLS drug
Oh,
boxes.
We have drug boxes on, I'm gonna say, guys, at least going back to the 12-hour shift. But I think the 24-hour shift benefits our county. Now, granted, we can't force a horse to water and make it drink. We can't do anything until we have the people to do a 12-hour shift.
And
And
I'll
I
say-
said, when we first did this, guys, we needed to start thinking then, and we've been doing it for 2 years now, or a year and a half now, and we haven't gotten our staffing to where it needs to be. I'm not pointing fingers at anyone, but I'm just making a statement of, we ran our people to death trying to cover it. We need to get the staffing to where it belongs to 12 and then work towards 24.
So you're saying keep what we have. You're not suggesting we keep what we have now.
I'd like to fill the positions.
But that's the problem, because we have 3 positions. How many positions?
5 positions need to be.
For 12 hours.
We would need,
Four.
we would need 4 in Kent Store, and then we would need 1 on the 24/72 schedule. as
Right
well.
now on the 2 24-hour trucks, some people are working overtime and some part-time people are filling in the gaps for that one.
Right. So I just
one
want to clarify this. So right now, if there were people that would fill the positions, we would have at least 12-hour coverage in Kent Store.
Yes.
If we
The
had,
budget, we already have
I
that.
understand. And so if there were a line of people waiting, and I realize there's not, but if there were a line, I just want to clarify for the record, if there were a line of people waiting to do 12-hour shifts in Fluvanna County in Kent Store, we would have at least 12-hour coverage there, correct?
That is
Okay.
Correct. Now, let me just go back, one thing about that, Mr. Fick has talked to some individuals in his department. And again, the problem with the 12-hour shifts, is which I think he mentioned last time, is you got people that are coming from, you got some people that are coming over the mountain or coming from, near the Tidewater area. They're driving a couple hours. And so to work a 12-hour shift and then do that back and forth is not feasible. Well, I don't want to say it's feasible for them. It's maybe not economical to travel all that distance for that 12-hour shift. Now, we also have we have county residents that are also Department of Emergency Services employees. Correct. So Mr. Fix, talked to some of the existing employees. There may be some existing employees that may be interested in the 12-hour shifts. Again, he doesn't have 4 people that he could instantly slide into those 12-hour shifts and then say, then we need to fill the 24s.
correct.
But there is a possibility of, if
Having
you
a
have
few
some
people that are interested, that are currently on staff 24/72, they would be interested in moving out to Kent Store for the 12-hour rotation.
Yeah.
Enough to fill it?
No.
Okay.
So then the last option,
Yeah, go ahead.
option 4.
So option 4 is eliminating the QRV and staffing 3 24-hour ambulances. So we would get rid of that quick response vehicle and we would staff a 24-hour shift at Kent Store, 24-hour shift or truck at Kent Store, a 24-hour truck in Palmyra, and a 24-hour truck in Fork Union. So obviously some of the pros there is you're able to, there's more transports vehicles available in the county for actual transports to the hospital at that point. It provides flexibility based upon patient acuity. So there might be situations where 2 trucks might be dispatched to 1 call, but when they get to that call, if the ALS provider needs to transport to the hospital, they would be able to still staff that other truck with one of the providers that's going to jump off of that truck to stay in the county to keep another truck online for another call. So technically, if the lake, let's say that they're having a good day and they have 2 trucks up, And then that would actually give us five transport trucks in the county at a given time.
Again, some of the cons of that is, you lose the flexibility of the quick response vehicle resource. But, from a cost standpoint, there wouldn't be for the current fiscal year, next fiscal year, there wouldn't be a cost differential. Really, because
Because the money's already there in the budget.
But wouldn't you then, because of your existing staffing, certain ones of those trucks would be ALS man trucks?
Possibly.
Yes.
And then the likelihood of one of the lake trucks being ALS is a 50-50 or better shot.
Correct. That's correct. And so that's the benefit of the quick response vehicles. If you have just one ALS provider in that, you in theory could have a lot of BLS trucks and have that, because I guess maybe talk about the percentage of calls and the type of care that's needed.
Sure. So obviously the QRV is going to go to your high acuity calls, strokes, heart attacks, major traumas, anything that sounds like it might be ALS or advanced life support in nature from the dispatch information. They can then either self-dispatch or dispatches based on the level of the truck in the lake, or one of our levels of truck, say at Fork Union, they'll automatically add ALS 1 to the call. So then they would respond to that. The times that they've had to transport, I would say, is probably about 50-50, where they would transport in with the ambulance to provide a higher level of care. Other times the truck that was originally on the call is able to take care of the patient without that higher level of care, and then that person is still available for the next major call that could potentially come out.
I would imagine that no matter which plan the call comes in, there's a sort of triaging.
There is through dispatch.
The call. So when we talk about quick response, it's been pre-triaged in the sense that if you had, and I understand heart attack, stroke, provide medications, I'm guessing you have pretty strong successes with heart attacks in terms of on-site support.
Yes.
But if you have somebody who, say, severed limb, you wouldn't dispatch a QRV to that. You would dispatch an ambulance to it right away.
They would both be dispatched at the same time.
Yeah, because you'll bleed out if you sever a limb.
So there is that sort of triaging that is happening. So,
correct.
Again, the quick response vehicle, it's more nimble, it gets there quicker. It's got more flexibility.
I know we have the FRA chief back there as well. Could we get his opinion on this?
Sure. And again, he hasn't seen this. He's just
he's like us. He's coming into it at the end.
Yeah, and again, there's no big decision. We weren't expecting.
We're not making a decision tonight.
You're just trying to give you some
showing it.
Mr. Fick's point, the supervision piece of it against the 12 hours. You have to think of a supervisor there, because not just consistency between leaders, but if you have an underperformer, that person can kind of fly under the radar if they're going between 4 different supervisors. So just, I would be more in line with the 24-hour approach. One thing about the changing from a QRV to a truck, if that BLS unit went to a call and then an ALS unit responded, that BLS unit can stay in service in the county.
Yeah,
so
correct.
So you're committing to resources to the call, but pretty quickly you're going to be able to clear that up, and they'll be available for subsequent calls. So I know that we would appreciate the coverage in Kent Store, and we would support it as a fire department.
So you're in favor of option 2 as well?
I'm in favor of option 4, option 2, whichever ones that have a 24-hour ambulance in Kent Store.
Is it 3? Is it option 2 is the 3?
Two is basically what we have right now, but just making the 12-hour truck in Kent Store from a 12 to a 24, but you still have the QRV. That's what option 2 is.
The problem with the 12-hour shift from fire rescue employment, people want to have that consolidated shift and only people who want to have a traditional work schedule of 9 to 5 are the ones that are going to be looking at that 12-hour during the week shift. And that's just not common in the industry. In the fire service, it's usually 24-hour shifts, rotations, and that's why people end up driving distances, because the math works out for them. So the recruiting and retention piece, yeah, you can staff it, but to get the 12-hour employees, you're gonna have to pay a heck of a lot more. And then when the county was filling those positions before, they were doing it with overtime pay, which is already a 50% premium on top of their normal salary. So it would just be better to hire full-time people at their normal rate and not be doing it with people making 50% bump on their overtime.
Correct.
So wasn't part of the issue, the fact that we couldn't find enough 24-hour people.
We weren't looking for 24.
Well, when it was first opened, it was originally opened as a 12-hour shift for Kent Store. And when I came in, Kent Store was already opened, but we did not have the staffing to be able to run Kent Store efficiently. It was mainly I would say probably about 95% of Kent Store's coverage was overtime, filled in with a few part-timers here and there. And then that's when we got to a point where we got so low in staffing that people were tired. And so they were tired from just so many hours of working that there were times where we only had one provider out at Kent Store for the day. And so we had to rely on volunteers to drive for us if they were available. If not, that person had to act as a first responder in a transport unit, which did not look good for the community, that you've got an ambulance in the driveway, but you can't transport because you're by yourself.
And then I think some of the other issues, like, comes back to supervision, because those people who are working over are now on a different shift than their normal shift. So now they're working for a different supervisor that day. And I think we did have supervision issues that kind of reared their heads with that process, with the overtime staff process.
Yeah, I think I will say I can think of multiple issues.
Yeah.
From
a supervision piece.
I mean, option one is what we are.
option one is what we have budgeted right now.
Option three, then. So we have 2 and 4.
Yeah, option two is just, again, in this fiscal year, since we haven't we haven't had employees to fill for the first 6 months. If you did move the 12-hour truck to a 24-hour truck in this fiscal year, let's say you did a January 1, for instance, well, since you hadn't spent any money for the first 6 months, you could fund it for this year to do that. The problem is you're going to have easily $300K that the boards would be aware of, that that's automatically in there for 27.
But
Correct.
didn't you say last time you were before us that the reason you didn't fill the 12s in Kent Store is you were focused on your 24s?
We were focused on the 24s, but always in every interview that was given as an option.
Well, of course, they're not going to take it because it's a better option than the 24.
Correct. But even when we were at the point where we were about fully staffed before we had some departures, when we were talking about the 12s for that candidate, they refused to accept the position because of that schedule.
Yeah, of course you would. And secondly, on the option 2, the uplift is $300K in future out years. Don't you have more than $300K in your overtime budget? So if you staffed another 24-hour truck, could you just say there's no overtime because you have more people in the pool?
You are automatically, I mean, here's the thing with every shift, with all these ABCD shifts, you automatically have overtime built in because
they're based on a 40-hour work week.
Yeah.
So you're not just washing it out, I think is what you're saying, right?
What's that?
You're not just washing it out.
No,
you're building it back in.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna build that same amount of overtime.
So if you increase the positions, then you increase the overtime, right?
You will, yes.
Yeah.
Is that factored into the $300K?
Probably not as closely as it needs to be.
What would it cost to outsource one ambulance in Kent Store to a third party, DRT or other people?
So I would like to talk about that, because having direct experience with DRT, the whole reason that the contract ended is they were unable to fulfill the contract. Like we.
That's what I brought up before. I mean,
We couldn't throw enough money at them to get the.
Well, we could,
Well,
well, when they were here, they wanted a huge cost increase.
$1 million for an ambulance, I mean.
Yeah.
You know,
And so that was kind of the reason to kind of shift towards staffing, because I think there are only two really kind of transport or medic level EMS providers out there right now. So again, the options are just like with a lot of things are going away. And so the natural progression is towards staffing for it.
And what's the current distribution in the current sectors for EMS calls?
As far as the
The
numbers.
numbers in each one, in each station's first two.
I don't.
we could get that.
We can get that. We can bring that back.
It'd be
and have-
interesting to see.
Yeah,
Are we putting them in the right place? Because I know we've also talked about Kid Store.
we have.
So you have to have that on your radar and be thinking about that.
No,
well,
correct.
that one's down the road because we have a working arrangement right now with Albemarle. Correct me if I'm wrong. Albemarle covers all the way to Rolling Road.
Where I'm going with this is I see 300K in fiscal year 27. I know that's in out years coming. So are we saying we're gonna set our tax rate at $1? Because if you keep adding, that's the only direction it can go.
I'm not telling them.
Hey, you just tell me what you want to cut.
No, I'm not
I'll
saying.
tell you right now, I'm gonna bring my map out and we'll just start
Exactly.
moving.
I'm saying the board has to figure out the level of service that they want to provide to the community. And if you do that, there's a cost to that.
Yes. So this is why I'm saying, let's be data driven.
Yeah.
Where's the numbers at? Where's the need at? So including the Kid Store, the Kent Store, every single area. And let's figure out how we're going to do this, not just this year and next year, but what are the total out year costs for 5 to 7 years? So we have revenue projections one way or another, because there's major decisions coming up that is going to impact that. So,
Yeah, like when we have to go professional fire and
Yes.
rescue combined. And that's not gonna be far away, guys.
and this is why we have such a high tax rate and such a low service rate compared to other localities around here, is because we deal with the fire right in front of us and we don't look at the bigger picture. And we know there's things over the horizon that's gonna come get us. And it's easier just to deal with
This
the one
one's
in
been
front of
talked about for 5 years.
us. I know.
And we were willing to take a bullet, which we have for a long time.
I'm with you. I understand that, but I'm just saying, I don't want to put the fire out in front of me. And then next year, in the following year, just constantly be firefighting, putting just the fire right in front of me out while the tax rate goes up and the citizens.
Well, I don't, I hear what you're saying and I don't disagree with you, Mr. Hodge. I think you're focusing though that based on the option that, we can only look at number 2. There's other options that wouldn't send out future costs. I mean, I have some questions on option 3.
I mean, I probably understand it slightly better. So correct me if I'm wrong, MJ. The things your ALS provides you is cardiac epi, fentanyl for pain relief. So it's a very narrow scope of calls that you apply it on. Even a stroke call is basically a BLS transport call. It's time of the essence and get them to a facility that can take care of them. So if you focus your ALS providers where they're needed to give cardiac epi or pain relief in the worst type of calls, then it's very narrow scope for what they do. And it's a wider scope, particularly since we've got the expanded scope of practice for your B's and your I's.
I mean, A's.
Yes, A's.
There's a scope of practice is a lot wider than that though.
Yeah.
Right? Because I mean, traumatic decompressions.
Yes.
Anticonvulsants for seizure calls. I mean, there's a lot more that they can do at ALS level. I mean, it's not just those two situations.
Right, being able to use the cardiac monitor to its full
I mean,
to its full.
they have ventilators that they can't use yet. That is good, is definitely a medic skill. That's not a BLS skill. So, so there's anyway, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. My train of thought's this, the majority of your calls are gonna be BLS level calls in their truest nature. It is nice, and I know BLS providers like that comfort in knowing they have the backstop of the ALS provider with them. But for the most part, you can focus that attention there. And this is why I think I see value in the QRV. Then why I also asked the question of, would you not have an I or a P on some of those trucks anyways? And then it's just resource management.
We do as well.
Some of the challenge though sometimes is when you're looking for providers, although you could probably be very just fine with the BLS provider. Sometimes I don't want to say this, sometimes beggars can't be choosers. And so if an A comes in,
exactly,
you want to scoop them up, because if you've got a hole and you need a gap, you need to fill it in with what comes in, and because you maybe just need a B, you may not always just get the B. And so
you take the I if you can, of
yeah,
course.
Right.
But I mean, I think the big thing I'm advocating for here is all these options have their pros and cons and merit.
I do.
But I think we need to look bigger
All day
picture, farther down the road, and try to do this more holistically.
Yep.
So I do have some questions on option 3.
Sure.
It says eliminate the 12-hour, okay, and then add 1 24-hour or 1 12-hour QRV in Kent store.
Yeah.
So it's either or, not both, correct?
Correct. You just get rid of the 12-hour ambulance. And if you did that, you could add a QRV to be stationed out at Kent store. And it would be a 12-hour QRV or a 24 QRV. And so you have, well, MJ, you can explain that. I'm not.
Sure, yeah, so you could have it for 12 hours.
Yeah.
Or, you know, between our department and the board, we can decide that we want to go with 24-hour coverage throughout the Kent store area with that quick response vehicle.
And that's ALS, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Because the equipment that's going to be on that QRV is going to be, so let's use the example of they run a call in Kent store and that patient needs advanced level care. Obviously, it makes sense to have that highest level of provider in that area, so that, let's say it takes 17 minutes for the transport ambulance to get there. For 17 minutes, they can be providing care in the home, preparing that person for when the unit gets there, they would be able to load that patient up and transport to the hospital
immediately.
Okay.
And so with that, I mean, there are some, there's some pros and cons. Again, some of the pros they said is, you got first response availability there. At some of these options, the cost differentials from the 24-hour shift ambulance, they're pretty comparable for the most part, looking at 26 and 27. One of the con is you just have, and I think from a safety and mental health issue, you have one person by themselves out of the station 24 hours. And so that's not the best thing to have. But there's pros and cons for all these.
What's going to end up happening is they'll leave Kent store and come down to Palmyra and hang out with Palmyra. Drug box exchange. I mean, we all get people.
Yeah.
Right.
Let me ask you a question. I think y'all had some conversation at FRA.
Mhm.
Did y'all come up with some possibility for Kent store at the FRA?
The
That may not, is this what y'all were talking about? One person?
It's not the same thing, but the FRA voted unanimously to endorse a support and maintenance person, the hiring of a support and maintenance person for Fluvanna County Fire for the department as a whole. We were going to put that into the operational budget request for this year. FRA voted, like I said, endorsed it unanimously, and the intent there is to have a firefighter that is doing truck maintenance, those types of tasks, that would be able to go on a call, but would be able to address maintenance pieces for all 3 fire companies.
I mean, I spoke to Chief Poland, I don't remember what that was. I think it's probably late last week. And what I told him is, one, for what is being proposed, I think there's a couple questions, a lot from the finance side of things, because again, if you're saying this support person is an employee of I guess,
Fluvanna County Volunteer Fire Department.
Fluvanna County Volunteer Fire Department,
Yep.
do they have the capabilities to do all the employee stuff on that side? And then I guess the other question is, and like I said, Chief Paul and I talked, I said, well, before I can understand even what this is, why don't you give me a proposal of what this looks like? Cause
Okay.
I need to check with him, Mr. Witten, to see if this is even allowable. I mean, as it stands right now, I think there's some gray area in what's being proposed, but I think right now, until we get the full proposal to see what's being considered or being proposed, we need to see if it would fit within the ordinance.
And that would be more during budget season, correct?
That's that's where it is going
All right.
right now.
I just was wondering if, I didn't know if y'all had
It's-
communicated with
It's supposed to
MJ to
be-
see if this was the same thing, but this
Yes.
is different.
No, this is different, and that's supposed to be a part-time position, so we don't have to pay benefits for it. It's not a full-time position, so it would most likely be filled by a couple people for that. And we ascribed the budget amount to it for the,
I think I heard 120,000.
that was not what I put in, but okay.
That's the number that was thrown out to me. So
That's generous, so yeah,
For part-time.
that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
I'll do it for 120,000.
Yeah.
my biggest concern is that, and I agree that we have some long range conversations, that's always the case. We currently are paying for 12-hour shifts in Ken Store. The taxpayers are, whether you live in Ken Store, or you live in Fork Union, or you live in the Lake Monticello area, you're paying taxes right now for no service in Ken Store.
there's service. It's just it's longer service.
Correct.
Not based.
I agree.
Yes, it's not based, yes.
For their, okay, so you're paying for there to be staff there in Ken Store, and there's not staff there in Ken Store because it's not being able to be hired, correct?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I guess my point being is, and you know, we talks about this during budget season all the time about, okay, well, if you get this position, can you fill this position? And again, it's just money that's coming out of the tax rate that is not being put to use because we're banging our head against a wall trying to hire 12-hour people, which obviously is not working. And so I think the conversation is different because we already are spending the money and the people out there are not getting the service because the current way that we have it structured is just not working out from a staff perspective. And so for me, option three, option two, adding $300,000 to next year's budget season when we're not even in budget season is a little too rich for my blood to have a conversation about. And correct me if I'm wrong, and this is not a gotcha question or anything. It's going to kind of go to what I'm trying to say here. Is Ken Store have, as far as call volume, is that, my understanding is that's the lowest call volume. Is
We're on
that
track for 500 calls this year.
And
Not fire, EMS.
EMS.
But every fire call is an EMS call.
What?
I mean, really, it is, because I
Brush
think,
fires in the EMS call?
well, we dispatch units to it in case.
Let me
anybody
phrase
finds
it
out.
differently. Is the demand there a little bit lower than in the rest of the county?
Population's lower.
Yes.
Okay. The reason I'm saying that is because not a gotcha thing or we don't need to do anything. Obviously, there was an agreement that it needed to be done because we put the 12-hour positions in there, but that's not working out. And so what we're doing is again, banging our head against a wall, trying to make something work and paying for it in the process. And there's no coverage there. So to me, I mean, what is the 25K extra? Why would that option three go back to option three? What's the 25K extra that would put into that fiscal year 27 that we would be
I mean,
committed
that's
to?
just looking at, because right now, so really you've got, and again, that's an average, because again, without knowing what level of the 4 people would be hired for Ken Store, again, there's some fluctuation between BLS and ALS. So the 25 is an estimate based upon an average of, let's just say we had 2 BLS, 2 ALS, and some average range. And so if you eliminated 4 BLS, ALS positions for a 12-hour ambulance, but let's just say you only did 1 12-hour, you only need two providers out of Kent Store. If you did the QRV with 2 providers for a 12-hour shift, if you did a 24-hour shift, then
You would need the 4.
you would need the full,
So for all intents and purposes, it's a wash, option three.
basically.
That's safe to say?
Yeah.
It's a wash?
Yeah.
Okay. To your point about long-term planning, if we were to do option three, maybe we run into issues that people, again, it's a 24-hour, but it's by itself. Maybe people turn it down because of that. Who knows? I guess I would advocate for option 3 in a sense that it puts the money that we're using now, already using and have budgeted and taxed to use. And more than spending money is spending money that you're not using is what really, really bothers me. I mean, so
Is not used, goes back.
I understand
But
that.
it still comes all the time.
But it's still your,
Approach and saying that we're spending money, we've allocated money. we've
Budget.
budgeted money.
we budgeted money.
Doesn't mean we spent it. So there's
I-
a difference.
I understand, but
But I mean, you understand.
well, I'm not saying we're wasting it. I'm looking at it from a taxpayer perspective of we've already charged them for that line item that says this is what we're going to do with it. We're not giving that service based on what we've said we're going to do with it. And yes, it goes back into the general fund and can be used for fund balance. But my point is, it's almost like charging someone for something and then not giving them that service and then saying, oh, well, it's still going to be put to good use back into the general fund. I guess if we could always do that and build up our fund balance for positions we can't hire.
No, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's a budgeted item. And a budget is by definition an expectation of what may or may not happen, right? I mean, show me one budget by one organization that spends $80 million, and at the end of the day, they are exactly where they said they were.
I never
It doesn't happen that way.
Yeah, I never said
Not-
yeah.
not-
Well,
I think because you understand that's fine, but from the public's perspective, they stay the same. We are spending the taxpayers' money. It assumes that that money is gone.
I wasn't, actually, we're not spending it. What I was saying is we taxed them for it and we're not putting it to the use that it was
Originally intended for.
intended for. And I get, I understand that you don't always move forward with things that you funded, correct? But when it comes to something like this, and we're hearing people say, and we've already got the money in there for it, it's just, again, I think it's for the third time, banging your head against a wall for the 12-hour shifts that just aren't working, and you continue to put that into the tax rate. It seems illogical to me to continue doing that when the money's there.
And options.
But option 4 also doesn't cost us anything.
No, not really. I mean, because you're eliminating the QRV. I mean, so if you budgeted for four people for a 12-hour shift, you already have 4 people for the QRV. You get rid of the QRV, those 4 go into the make the
With the other 4 for the third ambulance.
Yeah.
I mean, I like options 3 and 4 because it doesn't commit us. And even if you go with option 3, that one single provider that's manning that can do the primary and secondary assessment before the transport ambulance arrives. So it's not wasted time.
No, it's not
And,
wasting time.
and from at the lake, I'm telling you, we spend at least 15 minutes on primary, secondary before we have.
And I think pulling option 4, I agree is certainly not a strain on the budget, but if you pull the 24-hour QRV off the county-wide, that could potentially impact, it could rob Peter to pay Paul to a certain extent.
Correct.
That's what I don't like about option 4.
didn't somebody say in the beginning of this, and this is making a point, it's a genuine question, that we're not talking about voting on this tonight?
Correct.
This is just a,
This is the next thing.
I felt like this was heading
Well,
towards us maybe.
No, we're not making a vote tonight. And here's my argument against what I've just listened to. Our police please forgive me, Major Wells, but I'm going to say this. We've not been able to fill multiple positions at the police department. Does that mean we just kill those police because we're taxing the people? We're not just, yeah, you just said we're taxing people and then not using
You're applying
money.
that to the sheriff's department thing, which is different, Mike. I'm telling them, they're telling us the 12-hour thing is not working and
Correct.
not going to work.
Okay.
And I'm trying to help.
That's all I'm asking for is help.
Yeah.
Okay, and we've been spending $300,000 more in overtime. Correct?
Correct.
So it's not that it's
But it's
costing
baked
us
into
an
the budget,
addition.
right? That's what Mr. Dahl said.
No,
You just spent it no matter what happened out there.
Right, well, last fiscal year, if you look at the line items, we were way over on overtime.
Yeah.
500,000 over.
Yes, so very, very highly over because.
But we were way under on full-time salaries because you didn't
Correct,
have.
Because we don't have the people.
We didn't
Yeah.
have people.
Couple of things anyway. I think, We didn't stop doing it in Kent's store because of staffing. We stopped doing it because of some events that
There were,
happened.
No,
It was staffing
mitigating
because we as
There was a lot of-
firemen were filling
But,
in.
but correct me if I'm wrong, the chief suggested at Kent's store in a meeting that you and I were at, Mr. Dahl, that at the time they wanted to stop staffing in Kent's store. This was not because we couldn't have enough people show up to do the work.
there was some.
There was a combination of,
There were some management issues.
Yeah.
There were some
and
personalities.
We as a fire company thought it was in the best interest of the county.
Yeah.
Not just the best interest of Kent Store Fire. but
Correct.
The best interest of the county to just go ahead and remove that complication to the staffing so that the Department of EMS could refocus on the issues that it needed to refocus on. And that was the drive.
To clarify, whatever reasons, and I appreciate that. My point is, we didn't just go, we can't get anybody there. There's just nobody showing up. We had people in the station.
We did.
We
And
did.
we made a decision, however good or bad, we made a decision to stop that. So I just want clarification that we're not sitting here going, wow, we could never get anybody to show up, and that's why we stopped having people there in the first place. Yeah. And to that, I think moving, the fact that it will now be out of the building to in a different building will be a positive to maintaining that staff in Kent's store.
Correct.
And so again, like I said, but without going too far, I mean, so I think I've heard that there was some interest in the board, and again, no decisions, to maybe look deeper at option 3 and option 4.
Is there a combination?
Well, I know Mr. Sheridan, you're saying, yeah, I definitely know your option 2.
Could we not, since you said you haven't really been looking because you wanted to fill your 24 positions, that we could revisit this in January after the first of the year, when you make a concerted effort over the next 30 to 60 days to fill these positions and back staff as you need to?
Correct. One idea too. Is put the advertisements in the book, and then based on what we actually hire, you make a decision between option 3 and 4. Right, and that's another option because, here we are trying to dictate what marketable provide.
But they're not in the budget.
There's not.
Near enough a walk.
Option 3 and 4.
3 has a,
Three has a.
Yeah.
25.
It says 25, but that's based upon an
That's
estimate.
what
You
we had.
know, it's mostly, I would say they're mostly washes.
yeah.
So.
And there's no impact this fiscal year, so we have till June.
Yeah.
The market basically dictates which is the better option. I see a lot of flaws as well with 3, and I think that idea of somebody being alone in the station 24 hours.
Correct. That was a big con for me, was just being with peer support and that sort of thing is just, a safety issue as well, right? It's that person, God forbid, slips and falls at the station. Nobody's there to know they injured themselves.
Sure. Yeah.
I would say that person probably should have a radio on them at all times.
All right.
if they
So
get
we're-
knocked out,
Have we,
can't answer, call the radio.
have we
They make little.
talked about this enough? Is there anything we're saying beyond this?
No,
And anything the board wants staff to look at a little further?
Yeah, we'll look at those numbers that, for the individual localities.
That way, no one can
Individual
say that we
locality.
didn't try to do this data driven, because I know that's where they'll go when we start spending.
and then
more
we'll
money.
start looking at response times and how we can more equally.
Well, we just had our EMS
Covered.
inspection in September, which went really well, but our average response times for our 2 stations, Fork Union and Palmyra, is 24 minutes. Average.
Pretty low. What's the average?
Pretty low.
I think Albemarle, if I remember correctly, I think Albemarle in part of their plan for
That's
the
not
rural
very
areas,
fair
I
for
feel like
It's
it was,
like 24 minutes.
I want to say it
I was
was.
thinking like 16 or something.
19, I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think it was 18 or 19 is their target. That's their target for rural.
That's their
Right.
target for rural areas, and it was certainly shorter for,
To kind of know that as well too.
Okay.
But you also have to remember, they have a larger tax base and more stations and more geographically spread out.
Right, but I mean, on the side, say, what is Louise's response rate, what is Orange's response rate, those kind of things.
target response rate, yeah. Or target or actual, yeah.
I mean, yeah, it helps educate the public. I trust you guys to make,
Yeah, we have-
information and decision making, say, this is the best way to do it.
We have-
That's my suggestion.
We have 4 fire companies. How many does Cumberland or Buckingham have? That's all right.
Buckingham's got 6, I think.
5 or 6, yeah.
Oh.
Cumberland, I think only has 3.
Yeah, I think I'm on.
They're longer,
Okay.
narrower.
Very familiar.
Glenmore. Buckingham has at least 4 fire stations.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank y'all.
Are we ready to move
Thank you
on to
for your
item
information?
thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for the robust conversation.
Robust, proving that we can in fact take a very short agenda.
This one is short, I promise you.
Item C,
Am I gonna be happy?
fire training building.
Am I going to be happy?
Well, yes, well, I don't know. I mean, we don't have the bids back yet, so I can't tell you if you're gonna be happy.
All right.
So the containerized, this is just quick update. The containerized live fire training structure RFP was issued last Friday, November 14th. So again, we put it out, normally want to put it out for, a minimum 10 to 14 days. We're putting it out for 3 weeks. So the issue is we have the RFP due December 5th. And so the one thing that, there are 2 meetings before our grant expires for the fire training building grant. Our grant expires March 2nd. So back up, if we get the bids back on December 5th, it's discussing, we would want to know that the fire programs is going to extend our grant past March 2nd. I can tell you, I've already spoken to a board member on the fire services board to get some discussion on that. And there appears that there is strong support to have localities that are in this queue and in the position that we've been in to help move those along. So I'm going to go to the fire services board meeting on December 2nd to request an extension. The good thing is the RFP is out. We will have the RFP due December 5th. I know for certain there is one firm, one company that will be submitting a bid, if not more.
Will it be compliant and under budget?
Should be from what we've looked at. And from what the board has budgeted, yes.
That it?
And then again, we get RFP back December 5th. As long as the fire services board formally says, let's grant you an extension, then on the December 17th meeting, we would have, our plan is to have a contract for purchasing the container and the construction of it.
Last time you went before the fire services board and you made your appeal, how soon did you know the results of their decision?
Instantly.
Instantly. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Because before we have to approve.
Oh yeah, you would
photos.
know. Yes, I would have an answer like they'll tell you right then and there. All right.
Are you taking FRA and some of the chiefs down for support?
I haven't even gotten to who's going. I know Ben Powell, who's been kind of the project manager and assisting this. I'm sure there would be some others that would go. This meeting, they have 2 meetings. This meeting's in Glen Allen. The meeting because there's also a meeting in February.
Sure.
I didn't want to wait until February. I'd rather get an answer that was close to when the bid was coming back. The other one in February was going to be in Virginia Beach. So this one is sooner and closer. So.
And this one that's coming in on the 5th is the site prep, right?
No, we already got the site prep bid, and remember
And that's done.
That's done. Yeah.
So now this is for the containerized
For the
facility.
structure and the crane to put in the general contractor to put
Okay.
the structure together.
Now I see why you're pretty confident in where we're gonna be, because I can guess who the bid is.
Yes. So that's all I have to report. So I want to give you a quick update.
Anything else? All right, moving on to public hearing, juror pay donation, Mr. Whitten.
That's like, pull it up. Give it a little quickly. So, sorry, this is a public hearing to enact 2.1.8 of the county code to allow jurors to donate their pay for specified recovery court service organizations.
Yes, so, Mr. Chair, members of the board, so Virginia Code Section 17.1-619 does authorize the county to provide by ordinance that a jury can direct in writing that compensation due him or her be paid to the court services unit or any other agency, authority, or organization which is ancillary to and provide services to the courts of the county or city. So this was a request from the clerk of court and from the Commonwealth attorney. So under this proposed county code section, the clerk has requested that the authority, basically where the jurors could then donate their pay to OAR, which is Offender Aid and Restoration, the Jefferson Area Community Corrections, or the Region 10 Community Services Board. Juror must provide this direction in writing. It would be optional. And so OAR and Region 10 Community Services Board do provide a lot of services to the court, especially with regard to recovery court, which has been really successful in the county. So the public hearing was properly advertised, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So you listed some of the things on there. Could they put it toward CPMT or CSA, or is it just limited to those
It
listed
would
there?
just be limited to these two organizations.
And so when it says court services unit, that would be the agency that sits up behind the Commissioner of Revenue's office?
It's Jefferson Area Community Corrections, so they handle like drug court.
Yeah.
Or is in Charlotte.
Yeah.
So they handle like the opioid funding. We're getting through the
Yeah.
class action lawsuit. They handle the distribution of those funds.
I'm on social services boards and I'm on CPMT, so I see these people come through.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know if there was other options.
Just those two, correct?
Just those two,
Yeah.
correct?
And that's delineated by state code? It's a Dillon rule thing?
Well, it has to be a court services unit or other agency which provides services to the court. I mean, if you could argue that CSA, CPMT, I'd have to research and see if any other localities have had that as,
What about the footnotes?
excuse me? Sure, and there might be other organizations that provide services to our court system.
And are we gonna
These were just
spec-
the two candidates that the clerk reporting Commonwealth attorney recommended.
If the ordinance applies in other organizations, I mean, the fact that they requested is great, but maybe they didn't think of other ones, maybe would be good. Yeah. See what else.
And does, and does the ordinance will be vague enough just to court services? It won't specify, we won't name it in the ordinance so that if other ones are identified, we have some latitude.
I'm wondering,
If they get paid, can't they just write their own check to whoever they want to write it to?
So right now, the way it's very specific. It's only to OAR and Region 10 Community Services Board. So if we wanted the ordinance to be broader, we could do that. But we probably want to bring that back as a item in the future.
This was recommended by whom?
Clerk of Court and Commonwealth attorney.
Mr. Treadway and Mr. Hazel.
I'm just wondering what brought this up. Like, how many people are saying I want to give my money?
From my understanding, talking to the clerk of court, she saw this in the code and I was like, oh, I didn't know that was there. That sounds like a great option. Can you ask the board to basically have this optional authority? I mean, maybe there's people who don't need the money, or they'd rather donate the money.
My quick suggestion is any of that's a good cause. We could overthink of how many good causes should be in the list of something that we don't know if anybody's ever even wanted to do in Fluvanna County.
Yeah, I was gonna say pass the ordinance.
Modify. I'm fine with that.
I move the board of supervisors approve
Oh, we
them.
got a public hearing for.
Oh, yeah,
Yep.
sorry.
Open it up to public hearing. Anybody keep it focused to the board and at 5 minutes, please.
Sorry, James.
You guys keep my pass up.
Yeah, that's why I'm up here, is that if it does start to get used, how could a member of the public figure out how often it's used is kind of my question. Like, is that going to be something publicly accessible? I know I can't necessarily ask a direct question, but it's coming from a place where I know CASA works with our courts and would be a great beneficiary of this. And while I do understand the thought process that if they get their check, they can donate it to whoever they want, but ease of donation increases donations. If you can just check, give my money to CASA, they're more likely to do that than if they get the money and have to donate it themselves. So if we can track how often this gets used, I might advocate for changing it in the future to broaden who we can donate it to. If, like you said, nobody ends up using it, then why waste the energy? But those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment. Thoughts or questions?
Marvelous. I think Mike has something to say.
Which one?
My right honorable gentleman to my left,
There's two to your left.
to my immediate left.
I move the Board of Supervisors approve the amendment to the county code to enact section 2-1-8.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Mr. Goode, seconded by Mr. Hodge. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, 5-0. Anybody want to pull anything? Seeing none, we'll move on to unfinished business.
I've got to make a motion for the consent.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
He moved. Would you like a second?
I would like to second that then.
Mr. O'Brien made the motion. Mr. Hodge seconded. All in favor? Chair votes aye, 5-0. Now to unfinished business.
Yeah, just a real quick update. So last night at the planning commission meeting, the planning commission did approve to defer substantial accord 2501 as the board had previously did a resolution for to January 13th, 2026. Anything you want to add on that?
No, there's very little discussion. We just said the board gave the planning commission this authority and the planning commission has voted on it.
Again,
discussion.
Again, the applicant requested it, the board, so everything will be then considered. The zoning text amendment, special use permit, and then the substantial accord would go before them January 13th before the planning commission. In addition, I know there's been some discussion. I think one of the planning commissioners has had some discussions with Tanasca about possibly looking at doing some looks at some of the environmental things. And so one of the planning commissioners had recommended for Tanasca to reach out to a gentleman by the name of David Paler and provided a proposal for Tanasca to pay and for the county to be basically be the kind of the point of contact for this thing. And really what this firm does, so David Paler was the previous director of DEQ, and now he has his own firm. And so what he would do, he would provide some context and some discussion and reports based upon what they're proposing and kind of be able to speak on it from an environmental standpoint. So I know Tanasca has authorized to move forward with this.
With funding it, you mean?
Yes, with funding it, and then the county would named county administration as kind of the point of contact to work with the company's called Potesta.
And did they quote the given amount of what that would cost?
Probably a lot.
It says billing rate $300 per hour, not to exceed $5,000.
Thank you.
So that's that. And then
We don't have to author, we don't do that. That's
no, just giving the board a heads up. And then we've got some more information on the traffic study that we'll be discussing with the board in closed session.
And the meeting will be down in Carysbrook, so the public's benefit. January 13th.
Oh, the January 30th, yeah.
So
Planning
Yes. So that's all we had to just kind of.
While we're on Tanasca, can I ask two questions, please? Can you confirm that Tanasca has agreed to pay for the traffic study?
Yes.
Good, because I've got tons of questions on it. When I tell people, they still don't believe me. Second question, I got this really nice binder here I can see where it went to us, planning commissioner and the planning department.
Yes.
Does Tenaska intend to make this public on their website, or are we gonna make it public on our website?
We can be given authorization to make it public on the website.
Yeah.
I think it will be on both, will it not?
I would imagine,
I mean, I can't imagine they wouldn't put it on
I
there.
would imagine they would have it on theirs. And again, if they've given authorization, which I mean, again, most of these documents are public because it's the
Yes.
application, it's supplemental information. And this was just, they wanted the board and Tenaska. to
It's
have
pulled
their-
into one place, nice and neat, and a
Yeah.
lot of people have expressed that I don't want to go on some treasure hunt looking for these documents,
Yeah.
so this makes it, if we do publish it to the website, or when we publish it, can we make that available in the fan mail so that more people know?
Yep.
And the final question is, while there's DEQ reports in here, can staff or someone gather the last 5 or an intermittent, say like in 5-year intervals for the past 20 years, 4 DEQ reports at random? So they make DEQ submissions.
For the current plan.
Correct. And I asked them if they would make those submissions available. I didn't get a positive response from them, but it was, this information's out there, just like if you want to see our tax filings, go get it, but we're not going to give it to you. So if we can add that as an extra one.
Okay.
I mean, I know before I moved here, because I knew I was going to be on the water system, I went and pulled the DEQ and EPA things on the Lake Monticello water system. And we almost didn't move here because it was failing EPA standards for several years until it was reacquired and methods put in place. So I think seeing that long-term is beneficial for people.
I'm gonna ask a question and put no detail to it. And I might butcher the name. I think gentleman, Mr. Bassi, brought up a lot of due diligence. It seems to be a lot of it just common sense in building something of this size. Is there any willingness or any items that were brought up in that we want to look at adding to what it is we're trying to figure out before we vote on this?
He's emailed most of that to us. I know I've received it.
Yeah, I've read it all.
And then just one thing to add, Mr. Witten did a presentation last night to the planning commission, just about kind of just generally speaking roles and responsibilities for things they can require, things they can't require, you know, regarding substantial accords, special use permits, zoning and stuff like that. So that he presented that to the planning commission. I mean, we'd be happy to send it, you know, PDF and send it to the board if you just want to see kind of what some of those topic items.
Or maybe the other direction is to send, as Tim said, he's basically talking about what's in the email that was sent to us, is to have that vetted to the legalities of what we could ask.
Sure. Yeah.
That'd be fine, because we're limited by the enroll as we can.
My only comment on that, we don't want to overlap what is already done by agencies as well too. Like DEQ will have, I think, 3 different departments to look at
Yeah.
the water impacts of discharge. During the Department of Health is also going to do its own study. So there's a lot of things that happen by other departments that happen post, you know, the approval. I mean, I think from the public's perspective, we approve, but if they don't meet those standards, they still can't build, right?
Yep.
So there are very specific standards that are part of what they can actually do after we approve in order to actually have time. I think some of the ideas that were brought up in terms of, you know, how do you require dependent monitoring, so some of those things, you can do that. And we just got a report from Fluvanna Conservation Alliance here showing that the stream quality is actually improved in Fluvanna County on the Fluvanna. So, you know, having Fluvanna Conservation Alliance, as I think we've done in the past, you know, continue to provide specific monitoring might be something that will make sense to do. So I mean, those are some of the things that can be done, but you know, at the end of the day, as you said, there's probably, Mr. Wynn, there's probably requirements of what we can and cannot do. Despite, you know, the best intentions of efforts.
So let's have you do what you said you would, vet what we can and cannot. We'll be sure you have that list. Then we can have a discussion about which of those we think is
So there's
important.
certain things that the State Corporation Commission vets, certain things DEQ vets, certain things Army Corps of Engineers vets. And there's, you know, the items that.
Yeah,
the
we wouldn't
county
want to
vets.
duplicate those items.
Well, we
Everybody
can't
good with that?
override authority from above.
What's that?
We cannot override authority from above. We can't say, whoa, wait a minute. The state said you can withdraw water, but we don't want you withdrawing water. They control river levels and when you can and cannot withdraw. Hence why there's a Cobb Creek Reservoir, because Henrico County wants water, and that was their solution for when the drought measures are put in place.
So are we good with that? And I hear you. Are we good with that? With Dan, that he's gonna vet the list up? I'll send it to you if you haven't gotten it already, and
I've not received it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think I've,
okay,
I don't think I,
I'll send it.
maybe.
It would have come in the email to the whole board, but,
I'll take a look.
Yeah.
I remember
Thank you.
Mr. Bass's name.
all right, thank you. All right, we have new business, the tech zone?
Yeah, really quick, just one thing, last night at the planning commission meetings, the planning commission did take action on the data center resolution that the board kind of pushed to the planning commission. And so from that discussion, there came discussion about whether or not, and Mr. Goode, please chime in too, you were part of that discussion a little bit. The planning commission wanted to talk to the board about whether or not that they want to start working on and implementing a technology zone. I know some of that initial work is being kind of vetted through the EDA to then go to the planning commission, but Mr. Whitten, you want to talk a little bit more about?
Correct. So the planning commission talked about, the board want to consider a similar process to the solar district where a committee was appointed by the board of supervisors to basically look at the regulations for the technology zone district. And, then the committee would present that. You would have community meetings, and then it would go to a public hearing. The other request from the planning commission was, right now the moratorium on applications for data centers expires into January. So the other request was basically that the moratorium be extended so that this technology zone district could be looked at. And basically what I told the planning commission is we would need to have a resolution from the board of supervisors to have a further moratorium, but also they would need a resolution to actually state that we'd be looking at amending the code to create this technology zone district to show we have something we're actually a goal that we're trying to achieve with that resolution.
You just can put a moratorium on not accepting it without some type of end game in mind.
Correct. So we don't have the resolution tonight.
No.
But we have the next meeting, but we discussed it last night, planning commission. We just wanted to bring that up to the board tonight, that discussion.
And Mr. Goode, anything you want to add to that? Or?
Yeah, Dan kind of beat me to it. I didn't know if y'all had remembered that basically what they had asked for was if we're going to consider something like that would be to put an extension on the moratorium. While we discussed that, I did raise some pros and cons about said district, or the hypothetical said district would be, the pros would be, obviously you kind of direct it where you want it, and that kind of guides it. It obviously would need to link up with the comprehensive plan, which we're kind of in the process of redoing right now. So if we're going to consider something like that, it would be probably the time to do it. I said the cons also would be that, if you don't have a district and you don't want them, you just don't approve special use permits. But if you have a district and you do get applications and you end up not wanting them, you're almost in a tight bind where it's like, okay, well, you have this technology overlay set up, and it kind of ties your hands a little bit. And so those were just kind of some of the pros and cons that I brought up with regard to that. So I'll kind of leave it up to the discussion of you all as to whether you would like to consider either setting up a committee to discuss it, or B, extending the moratorium. Do I think a committee like we had with solar is necessary? I didn't sit on that. So, I think that we had some things come out of it. But also you can plan the commission to discuss things like that. And so maybe that committee's already there. I don't know. But I'll kind of leave it with you all now with my report back, essentially.
So having sat on the, I found that committee was, it was unfortunate there was only 4 members. That was the service. I think that there were some good ideas that were brought forward. but ultimately the implementation of that committee was, to basically ban solar in our county, which is productive. And I think when we talk about, you know, data centers where we don't actually have an application in place for it right now, when you really look at, if you're talking about data centers of any size, you're on the high transmission line side. There's a very clear area where that would come. So I think this is putting a card in front of it. And I do believe that application of a special use permit makes a lot of sense. But I don't really see the value of another committee that's best intentions in place. This guy that, you know, reveal that to our county.
When I was on the board in 11, I think, would it have been a PUD, planned unit development, that the state regulated, that mandated that we had to have a PUD?
Yeah, Barry talked about this last night, and he actually specifically mentioned 2011. It wasn't the PUD, UDA.
UDA.
Yeah.
And we have.
But my point is, I think the state was giving foresight to, you might not have dealt with this yet, but this is coming and you should have some plans in place of how you deal with it. And I'm only bring that up in context of, Tony, what you're saying of, we might not have anything on the table. The gist of that at the time was, be prepared, here's a trend that's coming your way.
We're gonna have proposals probably, you know, I mean, at the NACO conference, you know, the Chesterfield County is putting in a fusion power plant that they hope to power on in 2030. That's only 4 years away. Whether they'll make that happen or not, I don't know. But Google's investing $2 billion in that plan. And it's a $4 billion plan, and it's approved and working its way through. And that plan is being done by, you know, a group of people all out of MIT. It's a 100 megawatt plant. But we are going to see proposals because the energy need is so significant for micronuclear plants. We're going to see proposals for fusion plants. We're going to see proposals for data centers continue throughout the country. So
my point is, why not plan ahead for that?
Well, I gave you what my thoughts were, which was right now, those are not the proposals that we have. And right now, the last time we did this, we basically put in place a committee that banned solar in the county. And I think that's just a mistake. You know, we don't have enough experience to say what it should look like per se. And we don't have enough experts in place to be able to say, oh, well, we're only going to put, for example, if we say, well, our technology overlay is in, you know, Fort Union where there's no transmission line. Well, it's a meaningless process because they're not going to build it there, right? There's only certain places that they're going to build it. And that's what we started off with the solar community. We started saying, well, where are you going to put it? What's it going to be? And we didn't even understand the fact that they might need smaller little locations where they put substations in where the solar would be useful in order to have that. So, you know, I think there's experience that needs to be gained from that. We're still a couple of years away from seeing these kinds of things happening. And I just don't see that, you know, that we have enough knowledge on the board level. And I see this tool being used as a way to prevent, you know, versus to control, right?
I honestly don't mean this as a sarcastic question. I mean it very legitimate. If we would have ended up having some of the most lenient ordinances in the state on solar, would you have also felt we were not educated enough to have made that decision?
I felt like some of the things that came out of that solar committee were positive. Some of the ideas that came out were also good ideas. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you know, essentially a gross overuse of streams with 500-foot buffers essentially made it.
My question directly though was, if we were to come out with some of the most lenient, would you have still walked out of that saying the Board of Supervisors was not educated enough to have been, the committee and the Board of Supervisors was not educated enough to have been making those decisions or having the committee?
Mr. Chair, I think we digress. We're talking about solar. I would like to comment.
I'm sorry, I'd like to get an honest answer.
Yeah, I thought I would not have been in favor for saying most from that perspective. And maybe my choice of words in terms of educated is wrong from that standpoint. However, I would say that, you know, from that committee meeting, ultimately, it was not a, it was. Yeah, ultimately, I think that you had folks that were way too concerned about the problems without even looking at the potentials. That's the way I would put it.
So the relevance was that he brought it up in comparison to whether we should have this and bringing up in question whether we will do it twice.
But
So that's relevant.
my point was gonna be more relevant that having been on the solar commission and or the solar ordinance thing and knowing where the high transmission power lines are that your data center is gonna more than likely go to, they'll predominantly be in the Cunningham, Fork Union, and Columbia districts. It will not be up in my area where predominantly you've got your UDA. The closest area that's zoned I-1 would be the Fork Union Business Park, and it will still require them to extend the line. Mr. O'Brien did make the comment that they are looking at small module nuclear reactors and various other technologies to put the power on site, but that's several years off. It's not as simple as asking for an SUP in an I district to allow this to happen. It's going to be a rezoning because they're going to currently put it in where those power transmissions lines are in those 3 districts that are zoned A1. So it's going to come before us.
So you're for there being a committee or not?
I think if we have a committee, what are we going to look at? And I would say the primary issues are water use, noise, light pollution, traffic. Those are the things we can control. The rest of it, you know, how far do you put it away from power? Well, as soon as you have to address the question, then when I want to put it in the Cunningham district where a lot of the lines run through, or the Fork Union district, I'm going to rezone A1 to I1 because it's permissible use there. Is that spot zoning? Because there's nothing anywhere around that resembles that.
Not if you have an overlay.
Not if you have an overlay. Are we saying we're going to want to put an overlay in those districts? If you look at our planning maps, that's where our rural residential and rural preservation is. That would not be in line with our comprehensive plan.
Specifically to whether, the question is whether we're going to create a committee, correct?
Yeah.
Shows that.
Yes.
Where are you all?
I don't know.
I'm indifferent. You know, I guess I would be inclined, and I would hate to send it back to ask them. I mean, we do have another month on the moratorium at this time. You know, we could extend it out another month if we had to, since we're kicking it back to them, and there's a lot of things going on right now. But it would be, you know, one thing we didn't get from them, and it was a long meeting last night. There were some big things on there. One thing we probably, now that I'm sitting here with hindsight, could have asked them is, what do you envision this looking like? Do you envision it looking like what the solar committees look like? Do you envision it looking like a citizen appointed committee? Do you envision it? How do you envision it looking? And do you have at least 2 people on the planning commission, if it's like the solar one, that are willing to serve and put in that time? You know, and I guess the same question would apply here is are there 2 people willing and wanting to do it? Does it have to look like the solar thing did? Again, I would hate to kick it back to them and re-ask those questions, but it seems I would rather do that than make a motion to set something up that they didn't intend to have set up.
I mean, again, this was if the board wants to do it, but the board does not have to take action on this. And so you could, the December 9th meeting is the light planning commission meeting.
It is light.
Yeah.
Is there anyone on the, I know there's 2 technology people on this board, but is there? I know, not you.
That's the only thing I was going to say. I'm not,
in the UK,
I'm not a
but
technology person, so
the thing is, does the planning commission have 2 people?
Yeah, 2 people that could make, you know, the best decision on, you know, impact of solar farms on local streets, and, you know, and that ended up being the thing that, you know, ended up, you know, making Fluvanna one of the most restricted counties in the state when it comes to solar. You know, I just, it's how the tool is used, and, you know, I have a sense that we're creating a lot of things in the county that are designed to say no to people. That's kind of my impression, is that, and as somebody who as sort of champion Fluvanna being competitive, you know, we're sending a very strong message out to the community saying, don't even bother contacting because they're wasting time. To me, that's problematic.
I would argue that the only difference is that they're not suggesting a zoning district. It didn't sound like what they were suggesting. What again, this is maybe something to talk to them about, is were they suggesting, I got the vibe they were suggesting some sort of overlay discussion about directing these to a certain place, not necessarily in a certain zoning district, which was different than what was intended with solar. I think what came out of that was an actual zoning district. There is no overlay that says where we're guiding. It just says if it's going to go here, it has to be in this district. Utilities do.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. I mean, again,
I'm not married to whether there's a committee or not. I haven't given a whole lot of thought about it. Planning and determining who you're gonna be, without outside organizations telling you who that's gonna be, is leadership. Management is reacting to who comes and shows up at your door, and I tend to think we don't lead enough, and we should lead and say, here's what we want to be, here's what we want to look like, generally speaking. I'm not sure whether that should involve a committee for this or not.
And I think we get that opportunity, as Mr. Hodge pointed out, in both the rezoning, because it has pointed out that we have one industrial park, and that isn't actually the replacement of transmission lines. So the initial application is likely to come as close as possible to the power plant and to the transmission line. The reason is an awful lot of power is consumed by these folks, and the further away you are from the transmission line, the less efficient.
Well, and I think we're a little tied up on the data center thing too. I think technology is more encompassing than data center. And I think that it's been some of the intent of the planning commission, is that there are some things coming down or coming up that beyond data centers that could be included in a discussion of these things. And I think that's probably where, you know, again, it came up within the context of the zoning text amendment to remove it as a by right use. And so that's when the zoning district thing came up. So it was natural to sort of loop that in holistically with the data center conversation. But I think it's a larger concept, sort of like what Goochland has done and other counties have done, where it's not just limited to data centers, but other things.
That's fine. Yeah, I would say that you're going to see experiences from other counties, and Chesterfield's going to give us some pretty good experiences to what's happening, right? You know, who's going to argue in theory, and there will be people that will argue. If a plan is put in place as a fusion-based plant that every 20 years uses about 200 pounds of material. But, you know, they'll argue about the light, they'll argue about the noise, they'll argue about the water, they'll argue about these other things along the way. Even though the whole intent is to basically allow that company to be able to generate its own power for itself, because the public utilities are not able to meet the power right now.
After this, are we at a point where we are coming to any closure of what we would like regarding the planning commission's suggestion or
For
request?
what Mike said, the only other thing I can think of you'd get in a technology district would be similar to what you see when you head up to Dulles Airport along 28 there. That's all technology businesses, you know, huge glass buildings that have programmers and developers and, you know, systems developers in those buildings, not data centers, but they're just people that manage systems. Is that what we envision? That could theoretically be in the Zion Crossroads UDA.
Yeah, we're not even there. Like,
No.
we're inventing a process for a problem we don't have.
Exactly.
That's my.
All right, what do you want to do?
Let's send it back to them for December. We've got until what, January 31st for the moratorium. We've got a month. Let's not do anything rational tonight just because it was brought up last night. Let's send it back to them, have them give us more of a concept of what they envision and how they would like to be. Is the discussion more data center focused, or is it more all encompassing, and what's included in that?
And where?
And well, I mean, the committee would probably determine where at some point, as well as infrastructure. But yeah, I think we probably need a little bit more guidance from them. And I hate to kick it back, and I will be happy to articulate what some of the questions of the board were to the planning
I
commission.
think it's good. You'll be there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody good with that?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thanks.
Moving on to next round of public comment. Please keep it 5 minutes, then focus towards the board.
Quick question. Do we need to, since we ate lunch supper at 4 o'clock, do we need to extend Or-
That was a separate.
Separate, I just wanted to make
You
sure,
and
I just wanted to make sure because we were at 4 hours.
James Schoenster, 843 Jefferson. Why not go for the trifecta here? Something that I did not mention in my previous comments is giving some flowers to all of our officers of election and registrar staff on election day. I don't want to diminish the concerns that are very real about the precincts that are being shared with a place of worship, but 99% of the voters in Fluvanna have a very good experience on election day, thanks to the hard work of our volunteer staff, as well as the staff at the registrar. So I want to make sure that they get the props they deserve. And as our leaders in the county, when you're at VACO conferences and such, please, please, please advocate to our state representatives to give us more resources to implement the requirements that they pass down to us. Our staff at the registrar move heaven and earth to make this happen with primaries, special elections, and general elections. So please advocate for them. They really could use that sort of advocacy, and they do a great job, so they really deserve it. Thank you.
It's two people that had to do that.
Oops. I'm gonna blow the horn longer.
You didn't blow at me this afternoon.
No.
Tracy Smith to Sandy Beach Court. I hadn't planned to speak. I feel like every time I come to the meetings, I get more and more confused by you guys. I sat in the planning commission meeting last night, and Mr. Witten gave a presentation about what the planning commission's role was, as though it was educating them on what they were, I guess, allowed to ask of TANASCA. I guess that was the reason. That's how it seemed to me. And then for me to hear again tonight, there are certain things that you guys can request of them. It was mentioned about them being a public utility and things that you can ask. They're not a public utility. They're a private company. I don't understand why there are things that you guys cannot ask and request and want from someone that wants to come here and do business. You guys sat here and nitpicked forever over fire and EMS and money for that, and how these are people's lives and health and safety. Isn't that part of what we're supposed to be looking at in this county? Mr. Hodge wanted to fine people last meeting for dialing 911 too much. But we're worried about the money to staff people and to pay them to take care of us. I'm so confused. The Planning Commission denied a local business last night for an auto shop because so many community members were concerned about the pollutants that the cars at the auto shop are going to bring. But we want to bring a power plant. I don't understand what our vision is. What is our goal? What are we doing? We're all over the place, and it makes no sense to me. We have a trusted and valued current local business that wants to expand in our county, bring services to people that need it. It takes me 2 months to get an inspection. There's a need, but we denied it because they might not have enough trees and they might have too many cars out there and it might look junky, and it's on 53. And the people behind it are worried about the exhaust or gas from the cars. So that's going to come to you, and I can't wait to see how you vote on that and what the concerns are about the pollutants there. But we're gung-ho on doing anything we can that we were willing to. I'm glad to know we're going to be reimbursed the $60,000 for the traffic study. But we were willing to do that, but we don't want to pay fire and EMS people to work here. Hearing that people are driving from Tidewater to work here, are we not connecting? Why don't people here want to work here? People closer. Why are people driving other places to work in those positions and not here? I'm repeatedly blown away every time that I come to these meetings, because there isn't a vision. It's like we learned that apparently the comprehensive plan last night means nothing either, because you can throw that out whether it fits your agenda or not. So why have it? Why hold meetings? Why ask us to take a survey? Why do you even talk to us? Just vote on things. Just tell us what you're going to do because you know what you're going to do. Why do you even bother having public comments? Why do we come? Why do we listen? Why do I waste my time here? I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. You're worried about data centers, you're worried about solar, you're worried about all these things, but the one thing no one's worried about is the one thing that you know you're going to pass for Tenasco when it comes to your vote. I don't understand. So I appreciate you again for listening to Mr. Bassey. Listening to someone who is dedicating a lot of time to come here and put forth information for you guys. Tony doesn't want to do double work. Well, there is double work being done. Harvard is doing an environmental study. You know, it's like you just want to throw everything out because you know you want to pass one thing because you guys have had your secret meetings about firehouses or whatever it is that they've planned to flash money at for you. It's disgusting. I am so disturbed every freaking time I come here. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Add on to what Ms. Smith said. We talk about all the pollutants, you talk about the tax rates, Mr. Hodge, and yet we're going to let Tenasco put a conservation easement on that. What the hell are you going to do? Have public park for all the kids over there? If there's pollutants coming out of there, they're going to draw 6 million gallons of water out of the James River. And yet we're going to let them put a conservation easement in. And then what Patty brought up earlier, University of Virginia is getting a tax break because they have property that was left to them. And it's a $4 billion a year organization with an $18 billion plus endowment. It's not like they need a tax break like Farmer Brown that needs to sell 2 cows so that he can pay his taxes every month or every 6 months. So we need to be consistent. And why are the people that can pay the most taxes given the tax breaks? It makes no sense whatsoever. It is just, it's beyond insane to the person looking on. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Patty Rayner, 531 Union Mills Road. And I have many, many examples. I give them every time I come up here. But I do want to go back to election and the issues that surrounded the election. And as we all know, many positions were unchallenged. And there is reasons for that. I stated them last time. There was at least 2 board members that came up to Don and myself and said they wanted to sit down and talk about these concerns that we had. That never transpired. So what we get is, I'm going to do these things. I hear you. I want to understand what you're talking about, but no, we don't. We never follow through with anything. Nothing. There is no consequence for the behavior. So I'm going to be specific because, you know, we dance around what has happened and who did what. Well, Don and I ran his campaign and there was the 2 of us. Okay, so we're not politicians. We're just trying to make a difference. We benefit personally nothing. We get a lot of more stress, a lot more work, and a lot of time away from our grandchildren. But we're willing to do that for the good of the taxpayers in this county. Now, we tried to run a campaign where we took every bit of the examples and the data from the county website itself. All of this information could have been verified by anyone who chose to do it. We told exactly where to go find it. So Don, went to the community centers to talk to the senior citizens. The last one we went to in Fort Union, Mr. Spitzer says he wants to sit in on that meeting. Well, that's great. The more people, the better. We want to share information with everybody. At the end of that meeting, as we were picking up our stuff to leave, he turns around as we walk out the door and tells everybody, all the senior citizens in there, don't believe what he just told you. None of it's true. I turned to Faith and said, I don't appreciate that because everything that was said was true and factual. Now we're talking about a county employee. So what is the consequence for that behavior? That is election interference. That is preventing the facts and information from being shared with the taxpayers in this community. We have shared that information here with you all, and yet nobody has chosen to do anything. When there is no consequence to these kinds of behaviors and actions, that is why you will not have people want to come out and get involved and try to make a difference for the good of the whole county, all of the people of this county. Didn't stop there though. So, on election day, I was at Beaver Dam Baptist Church. One of the former board members from this county was in and out of the precinct talking with all of the people running the voting machines. Well, that is not allowed. And then sitting at the table of the opponent. Why hasn't somebody addressed those issues? That person knows what the rules are. These are the leaders of our county. And this is what we choose to ignore. Why? Why is that? Why do we not want to enforce the laws? Why do we not want to address the people that are causing the issues? Why don't we want to talk to the people like me and the other people that get up here and talk about their concerns? Because we will not have a public forum where people can have discussions and get answers. Why is that? I stand up here and I give the same examples, and I have many, many examples. And I can go on way beyond this 5 minutes with many examples of unfairness where there is no transparency and there is no consistencies and there is no consequence and there is no way to convince you all as the governing body and the leadership of this county to look into these issues. I don't understand. And I agree with Ms. Smith. I am very confused too.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak?
Ray Bassey, 50 Smokewood. Since my name's been invoked several times, I'll just clarify maybe a couple of things. One, my entire intent is to bring attention to the overwhelming size of this project and the generational proportions that you have to deal with. In my federal government experience of dealing with multi-billion-dollar projects, if you don't get it right in the beginning, you're not going to be able to clean it up in the end because you're dealing with a gorilla and we're just a little peanut that they can step on. So that's my intent. And I've even adjusted some of the things I sent originally. I'm updating some information right now. For example, when my initial information I sent out said something about having them do a study to see if they really did modify the old plant as best they can. Reality is, if you put a standard in for the county sound ordinance that says both plants running simultaneously, that actually fixes itself. It forces them to have to do something one way or another. So I've even modified some of the positions that I've said. But the point is, if I put out 12 points to you and 6 or 7 or 8 of them are even close to being on point, that's 6, 7, 8. I think you haven't even begun to deal with. And I hope that just puts you in a better position of thinking about all the things you can do. And I'm just going to give you a short blurb that I was able to just pull up right now in the context of talking about federal, state standards and what you can and can't do. One, my federal look at things, just remember, most of the standards are minimal standards that requires somebody that's doing something to the environment to meet. It doesn't mean that sometimes you don't have leeway to actually tighten down on that on a local level. And just as an example, and again, this is just pulling a blurb up, putting some information in. Virginia is a Dillon rule state, meaning counties have only those powers granted by the state legislature. In the realm of land use, however, the General Assembly has given localities broad zoning authority, including the ability to require special use permits, also called special exceptions or conditional use permits, for certain projects. Under Virginia law, a zoning ordinance may allow uses subject to sub-approval by the governing body under suitable regulations and safeguards, and the locality may impose reasonable conditions on such permits. In short, if a project is not allowed by right in a zoning district, a county can require a sub and attach conditions tailored to mitigate the project's impact on the community. The Virginia Supreme Court has upheld this framework, noting that special permits are intended to allow a use under specific conditions that ensure compatibility with neighboring properties. For a large infrastructure projects such as Tenaska proposed expedition generating station in Fluvanna, the county zoning ordinance classifies a 1540 megawatt power plant as a major utility use allowable only by special use permit. That gives the county latitude to approve the project with conditions or to deny it if impacts cannot be adequately addressed by Fluvanna County's process for the Tenaska project. So my point is, you're in the driver's seat. And I think if you dig, you'll find out you have a lot of leeway. And looking at other jurisdictions subs, they put in conditions that were intended to bring it to the local level so that the local is protected. Again, utilizing the federal state statutes and realizing that many of those are minimal standards that are imposed on Tenaska. They're not imposed on the county. It doesn't mean that you can't restrict or do something that's reasonable. So that's my message. And I continue to work on the things I think you should be looking at. And I will probably be sending you some more information, probably modified. I'll try and cut it down. I may put it into 2 parts. Here are the 12 points if you just want to read 12. And here's the 35 pages of legal precedent and everything else that I could find that meets that. And I'm not saying I'm 100% right, but I have a lot of time on my hand because every day's Saturday for me because I'm retired and I'm almost 70 years old. So I got a lot of time to do a lot of things. And I've been doing this for 35 years in the federal government, dealing with major projects, major, budgets, billion-dollar budgets and things. So my intent is just to help you open your eyes to the fact that you've got an opportunity. Don't squander or waste the opportunity you have to protect the county.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else wishing to speak?
Good evening, Ron Barchi, 204 Panorama Court. I want to address some stuff Mr. O'Brien said earlier, just information in general, excuse me. So the Virginia Department of Energy has estimated in the next 5 years, power increases or power demand is going to go up by 25%, double by 2035. Hopefully, Camco and I forget the private equity firm, but they have committed $80 billion for 35 gigawatts of power generation construction via nuclear power. North Anna is on that list to get an AP1000 reactor. Specifically, the fusion project in Chesterfield as one of 4 people credentialed in the state to inspect nuclear construction, one of 3 to inspect operating, and the only person credentialed to supervise construction. From a code standpoint for ASME Section 3, Division 5, that's not happening. By 2030, the company that wants to do it is not even credentialed to build it. That process takes 5 to 10 years. I mean, it's 2025, so we celebrated our 25th anniversary of fusion power being 20 years away. So it's not going to happen. More than likely, you spoke about small modular reactors, which also falls under Division 5. Terra Power has not started construction. They were supposed to be the closest. They are designed as a combination of a salt molten reactor. Down in Lynchburg is BWXT. They are partnered with Nucor. They are the most likely to have the first SMRs online. I cannot recall the company, but there's one that is in cooperation with TVA in Oak Ridge. They are very close. They are credentialed, even though Terra Power is the only one with a design approved by the NRC. But I mean, it's power demand is important. I will say, I know there's a ton of opposition to NASCA, but they're building it because the demand is there. Dominion last month estimated that by the end of 2026, the annual increase to their customers is $1,100 per month. They anticipate that increasing because it's going up. It's not just data centers. Virginia's bringing business in, so it's growing rapidly. To address data centers, their locations, your absolute transmission lines, SMRs for where they're going to get installed. It's going to be near transmission lines and water. So don't forget that it's not just the transmission lines, it's the twofold. From talking with companies I know who have put money toward it, the most likely locations is going to be prior commissioned power plants. So I know Dominion is actually considering, like, not at your level yet, but there has been internal discussions with their nuclear group that they're looking at the Bremo Bluff location because the transmission lines are already there. It's got the water. Downside is it's borderline a Superfund site. So they've got to finish that cleanup of the coal ash before they can do that. And Bear Gardens is also a potential location. So they're coming. I mean, it's coming. Hopefully it comes because it's the best we've got. I know there's a lot of talk about solar. I think the Planning Commission meeting on October 7th, someone brought up Texas has 10 gigawatts of battery storage. It's a little bit of, he wasn't wrong, but it's a little bit of misinformation. It's 10 gigawatts. That's not 10 gigawatts per hour. That's not the solar charging the batteries and they discharge overnight. That's 2 hours. Those are 2-hour packs. Those are for when the peak hours come, the batteries supplement so they can handle the peak before the fossil fuels come online. So unfortunately, battery, and I said it at the planning committee meeting, the other unfortunate fact with storage right now is the supply chain is inhumane. The personnel who were mining it and refining it it's borderline indentured servitude. There's no safety. There's no environmental controls. It's absolutely disgusting. The alternative to battery storage is, if you want to Google it, Bath County storage or Bath County battery. What it is, it's a giant lake. During peak hours, they let the water flow down like a hydro dam. And then at night when it's low, they pump the water back up. And it's a very large battery. It's probably the only way to do it. And believe it or not, a lot of localities are getting rid of hydro dams because of the impact to the environment. Someone addressed the park that Tenaska is going to, well, it'll be land dedicated, but it'll probably be a park. A very good example, Dutch Gap in Chesterfield, Dutch Gap Nuclear Power Station. They did the same thing. They dedicated it. It's actually one of the most popular parks in Chesterfield County. The water, believe it or not, a lot of people say the discharge water is dirty. It goes in cleaner than it comes out. So thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Turn it up. Jeff Potter, 474 Cover Bridge Road. I'm trying to pick a hat. So on the economic development piece, I did want to remind the board that data centers come in all sorts of sizes. Data centers can be 15,000 square feet. Segra's got one in Kannapolis, that's 15,000. Where it's nuanced is the tax revenue on some of these mega facilities. I do believe that they may have some ways to escape the machinery and tools tax, which is where we would make our money. And I think the safest thing is what's a co-location facility, because no one entity owns more than the level of equipment that would give them a pass on the local M&T. So just, I know there's a lot of pushback on water use and whatever, but they come in all different sizes, and the smaller ones obviously are going to need more infrastructure in place for them, because they're not going to want to put millions of dollars into run power or fiber to get to there. So location is important for that. But just wanted to bring that piece. And we have to have revenue, because these challenges from fire and rescue aren't going to stop. The days of people jumping on a truck and just, yahooing it out are done. It's not responsible to the citizens for people to do that. I've been doing this for 31 years, and I still go to classes and take training and get more certifications because, well, it's always evolving. It's always changing. And it's a lot to ask for a volunteer. And that's why we were asking earlier for the staffing, because the few people that do this, we're running them a lot. And it's a lot to ask for people and their families. So I know we have NIMBYitis going on, but we need some industry and we need some revenue here to be able to fund these initiatives without crushing the tax base. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the house who has not spoken? Dave. All right, seeing none, we'll close the second round of public comment. And by the way, thank you for everybody speaking. And we will go into a closed
Real
meeting.
quick, Mr. Witten, can you make a note for the planning commission? When we go back to ask them about the committee or whatnot, to include some sort of representation, discussion of representation from the EDA. Since they are kind of involved with that. Thank you, Mr. Potter.
Mr. Chair, I move the Fluvanna County Board of Supervisors enter into a closed meeting pursuant to the provisions of section 2.2-3711A1, section 2.2-3711A6, section 2.2-3777, section 2.2-3711A8 of the Code Regime 1950 as amended for the purpose of discussing personnel, employees of human resources, investment of funds to national traffic study, litigation, Gate Plaza LLC versus Board of Supervisors, legal matters, fire and rescue ordinance.
Second. Motion made by Mr. O'Brien, seconded by Mr. Sheridan. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, 5-0. We go.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, I move the closed meeting be adjourned to the Fluvanna County Board of Supervisors convene again in open session. Be it resolved, the Board of Supervisors does hereby certify to the best of each member's knowledge. Only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements under section 2.2-3711A of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended. And two, only such public business matters as are identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered during the meeting.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Sheridan, second by Mr. O'Brien.
O'Brien.
I mean, that's right there. Mr. Hodge.
Aye.
Mr. Goode. Aye. Mr. O'Brien.
Aye.
Mr. Sheridan. Votes aye, 5-0.
Move to adjourn.
Second. Motion made by Mr. Hodge, seconded by Mr. Sheridan.